friends, and welcome back to AmandaMuse. You gotta love the styling of videos is a little different these days since I tend to feed through them. I had my hair down, it was looking good, but I don't know, hair gets in the way when you're trying to breastfeed and burp and you don't want to get like spit up in your hair, so up it goes. So very fitting that I'm feeding my little Jack right now is that I wanted to share with you some breastfeeding tips for new moms. I get this requested all the time, probably because I nursed Esme for quite a long time. Just shy of 2 years I nursed her, and nursing a 2-year-old is very different than nursing a brand new baby. So I'll share with you some tips, and it took me a while to put this video together because, to be quite honest, I needed a bit of a refresher. You know, like I needed my own newborn to remind myself what breastfeeding a newborn is like, because you quickly forget. So hopefully it can just offer some encouragement and answer some questions for those new mamas out there. I should probably preface this video by saying that I'm pretty much like a huge advocate of breastfeeding. I'm realizing, especially now with my second child, that I am also a big fan of attachment parenting. I baby wear, I breastfeed, I co-sleep. I just like a gentle approach to life, and I think that it starts in the home. So that's really important to me. So if you don't share these same views, you probably are not going to enjoy this video, just an FYI. Okay. Most important thing is the latch. If you've never breastfed before, you're not going to know what a good latch feels like, and that's totally understandable. However, how you know it's a good latch is when it doesn't hurt as much as a bad latch, because when you're first beginning to breastfeed, your nipples are going to get very sore because, one, you are not used to having somebody on them all the time, and secondly, it's just you don't know what a good latch is, and so you're a little bit worried. And so once the baby makes contact and is starting to get some milk flow or colostrum, whatever point you're in your newborn experience, you kind of just think, okay, don't move, just like let the baby latch. Well, not so good. If it's hurting, I just highly advise you to stop. Take your pinky, pop it in their mouth to break the seal. If you just pull your nipple out of their mouth, you're going to cause trauma, and it's really going to hurt, so don't do that. Wait till they open their mouth really wide, and then take your nipple and try to point the nipple towards their top of their mouth and get it in there. They take a whole lot in their mouth, like not just the tip. If you just do the tip, again, you're going to have trauma, and it's really going to hurt. If you didn't know, basically the nipple actually goes down their throat, and it sounds kind of weird, and they sort of push on the breast part, on the upper part of your nipple there, your areola, whatever it's called, to actually help the milk come in. What a good latch feels like. This is really hard to describe it with words, but it's like a gentle tugging with a rhythmic motion, so constant. They do start to get a flow as they're sucking and swallowing. So yeah, gentle tugging. If it hurts on one side, it's probably not a good latch, so stop, start over. Don't be afraid to stop and start over until you get the hang of it, because it will take some time, and just be patient with yourself, which I think is like the rule of thumb with your parenting itself, but just in general with breastfeeding, just be really patient, because you don't know what you're doing, they don't know what they're doing, you're learning together, and you will get there, I promise. Second thing is, don't be afraid to change positions. I think when you think of breastfeeding, you think of the cradle hold, which is your basic hold, but to be perfectly honest, that is a difficult hold with a newborn because they're quite tiny still. Because once a baby gets older and you're doing the cradle hold, they kind of rest in your lap while nursing. Well, they're too small when they're little. So get yourself a breastfeeding pillow if you can. If you don't have a breastfeeding pillow, get yourself 2 pillows, one to go under their body, one to go under the arm that you're breastfeeding on to help prop everything up. Because if you're uncomfortable, guaranteed the baby's uncomfortable, your milk is slower to come because you're feeling anxiety. Breastfeeding should be a comfortable experience. It might hurt a little bit. There shouldn't be any physical discomfort anywhere else apart from your nipple. Do you know what I'm saying? So try to be as comfortable as possible. Learn to burp the baby. That sounds weird. You're thinking, how hard is it to burp a baby? It's actually quite difficult when you've never done it before. So don't be afraid to use a little bit of force. The whole concept of burping is you have to have pressure on their tummy, which probably goes against what you're thinking because they've just eaten a bunch of milk and you're like, oh, I want to push on their tummy, but it's just applying pressure. I like to pop them kind of high, like where their tummy is pressing against my shoulder, and I've got quite bony shoulders. I give them a couple of good taps. I like to rub up. There was a burp. I like to rub up, give a couple of good taps. Another good trick to burp a baby, which a pediatrician actually showed me, is you kind of hold them under their arms and you keep their spine straight and you kind of hold them up like that, which is harder to do as they get heavier, while supporting their neck like so. So you kind of hold them, lift up their underarms a bit, and generally a burp comes up. So I alternate between those two positions, and it usually works. Why burping is important is because once you've finished feeding, they will most likely have a little bit of wind in there, in their tummies, and they won't fall asleep. They're going to be pulling up their legs, and it's really, really distressing to a mom who is already sleep deprived, and now you've got a baby that won't sleep. Believe me, once you get the air out, they will fall asleep. Usually. They might still be hungry, and then you offer them the other breast and you go from there. As the baby gets older, a beautiful thing about breastfeeding is that usually you stop burping them at some point. I usually co-sleep, and when you do breastfeed them at night, a lot of times they don't require a burp, or if you do need to burp them, you don't even have to get out of bed because you're just laying down, and if you're already on your side, you'll prop them over your hip and give them a little burp. So it's lovely. Also, the reason that you don't have to burp them as much when they get older is they control the flow of the milk intake. So they take as much as they want. They're not gulping back the milk. There's also no air in your breast, so they're not taking in additional air from your breast type of thing. They might get it in through the sides, but very rarely as they get older. When they cry, offer them the breast. Usually, if they're not wet, if they're not hurt, if they're not cold, they are probably hungry, or they just need a little bit of comfort, and you are blessed with these beautiful tatas to help you do the job. So I breastfeed on demand. I think initially that's probably the only way to do it successfully. I think if you're going to be on a schedule, you might be setting yourself up for a little bit of failure because, and there's scientifically reasons for this, because as the baby grows, they will need to stimulate the milk production in your breast to increase the amount of food, right? Basically, your body produces enough milk to accommodate the size of your baby. So as your baby grows, they need to suck more in order to stimulate more milk production. So basically, how do you do that if you're not on-demand feeding? So, I mean, there's probably people that have had success doing it. I've never tried it. I can only share with you what I know, and so I feel that breastfeeding on demand is the way to go. I don't find it disruptive to my life. I mean, I don't know, I have a new baby. What else am I gonna do? You know what I mean? So in terms of using a pacifier, I am pro pacifier. I think it's great. If my babies could take them more, I might enjoy it. But you know, why would you want to suck on a passy if you could suck on a booby? So it's okay to let them just be sitting there sucking, even if they don't necessarily want all the milk from the breast, because it's comforting to them, and babies have a biological need to suck. That's why you have pacifiers. That's why they take bottles. They enjoy that. It helps satisfy that basic human need. And so if you are nursing, then don't be worried about giving a pacifier because they're getting both. And I feel like breastfed babies don't even really enjoy pacifiers because they get that need so much from mom already taken care of. I'm actually like always trying to get my children to take a pacifier so I could just have like a tiny break. But yeah, so don't worry about the pacifier in my opinion. I think it's fine. I think that keeping your babies close just helps enhance the breastfeeding relationship. I'm a big fan of wearing your babies, like ring sling or a wrap of some kind. I like to also use the ergo carrier, but that's like when they're bigger. But initially, wear your babies if you can. It's comforting to them. They hear your heartbeat. They relax. You can actually get things done because your hand's free. I generally wear them in between feedings if they don't fall asleep on the bed or whatever. So I like to wear them in between feedings, and that lets them rest, lets me get some rest. I can get some things done. So I think wearing your babies just helps you achieve success when it comes to breastfeeding. Switching breasts obviously helps. Sometimes you'll find you have one breast that is an overproducer, and that's totally normal. If you're trying to compensate, just offer the other one first for a few days or whatever. But yeah, I would just say switch breasts. Sometimes you'll find like you produce enough milk where your baby will just nurse on one side and be satisfied, and then the next feeding you offer the other side. Some babies like to switch between the two. It's totally up to you. You'll figure out what works for you guys. You actually get an app on your phone that helps you track when you fed the baby and what side you use. So if you're really tired and you're not even sure, you can just look at your app. I used it for like 4 hours and then got lazy. So it's whatever works for you. Don't be afraid to pump. Every freaking book you read will say one thing, one will say don't pump, the other will say do. My experience is that I had engorged breasts initially when I had Esme, and I had like damage to one side. Like it was painful. There was blood, you know what I'm saying? It hurt. And I had the nurses come and see us postpartum. And the nurse just said, you know what, it's never going to heal if she keeps sucking on it. So, or if it does heal, it'll just take a long time. So she said, you know, it'd probably be best for you to express milk on that side. So I would nurse her on one side and then pump on the other. That way both breasts, you know, released milk at the same time type of thing. And then I didn't get lopsided, because that can happen. And also I relieved the pressure and also reduced the trauma to the damaged nipple. So I'm totally for pumping. And I don't pump anymore. Like, he's 7.5 weeks. I only pump if I need to, or if I go out and come back and he's had a bottle in between there, then I'll pump because I'm engorged. But yeah, don't be afraid to pump. Also, don't be afraid to offer your baby a 1 bottle per day or whatever you think makes sense. Like, there's no rule book to successful breastfeeding. I think at the end of the day, it has to make sense for you and your family. And for me, with Esme especially, I was so sore, I just needed that one break, you know? And so what I would do is I would pump, and my husband would give her a bottle of breast milk, and that way I didn't miss out on the actual feeding process. So it's not like your milk supply will go down or anything, because while she was having a bottle with daddy, I was pumping, which you think, doesn't that defeat the purpose? But a pump does not do the damage to your nipple that a mouth does. You know what I'm saying? When you are pumping, you might think, I'm pumped and all I got was like half an ounce. Tips and tricks for pumping. First of all, it's kind of like going to the toilet. If you have an audience, it ain't gonna work, you know? So find a comfortable place for you, whether that be in your bedroom or just a private area. You can bring your baby with you. You can look at your baby. You can think about your baby. Generally, thinking about your baby, looking at your baby will help you produce the milk. It's just a natural biological thing. And so if you're out and you have to pump and your baby's not there, maybe look at their picture. It sounds weird, but it actually works. Something that's worked for me, and it sounds silly to even say it out loud, but I read it in a book once and it's so true, is that I would visualize like a fountain, as if I was like a fountain producing all of this milk, and like this flowing milk, like very Earth Mama kind of thing, you know? And works like a charm every time. And letdown feels different for, I'm sure, a lot of women, but generally it's a feeling of like a tightness under the arm or in the top of the breast, or almost like somebody's got a hand and kind of like pushes down. That's kind of what letdown feels like when your milk comes in. I probably said this earlier, but I am a big fan of family bed, co-sleeping thing, or just keeping your baby near you. So that could be in a co-sleeper, in a Moses basket by the side of the bed. You're trying to have success with this breastfeeding relationship, right? And it's not an easy type of thing to get into. You've never done it before. I said this 12 times now. So whatever works to help you. And for me, that is co-sleeping, because I barely wake up in the night. I wake up, I offer him the breast. We both usually fall back asleep and he nurses back to sleep. And then if he has to burp, I'll know, because he wakes me up again. I'll burp him and we go back down. So that works for me. Things like, you know, a cute nursing cover to bring out with you if you're feeling a little bit insecure about nursing in public, or cute clothing, go buy yourself a cute couple of nursing tops, but wear easy, accessible clothing, because I made that mistake a few times with Esme. And if you want to stress yourself out and stress your baby out, wear a top where you can't get in at the boobies fast enough. Try to relax when you breastfeed. Be in a comfortable position, because your baby will sense any anxiety and respond accordingly, and that's generally with crying or just not latching and not feeling comfortable with latching. So just keep that in mind when you are nursing. Be confident in what you're doing, in that you're both learning to breastfeed together, and that no one else can do what you're doing for your baby. Yes, they make amazing formula, but it's not breast milk. And this is not a video to say you should only breastfeed and formula is bad, because I'm a formula fed baby and I'm pretty damn awesome. So I will say that you will have your bad days and you will have your good days, and it's just all part and parcel for, I don't know, for what you're doing, you know? This video isn't here to just suggest that breastfeeding is the only way to nourish your baby, but rather offer you some tips, some tricks, some ways that I was able to maintain my breastfeeding relationship with Esme for so long. Jack and I are going at 7.5 weeks, going strong. With Esme, I supplemented a little bit, which is another thing. Don't be afraid to supplement initially if you feel like your milk supply isn't there, or if you're just needing a break. You know, that 1 bottle per day doesn't only need to be breast milk. I would sometimes mix it half and half. So, I mean, there's endless possibilities of things that you can do to help you achieve your goals of whatever that may be. 6 weeks, 6 months, a year, 2 years. You know, my goal was always try to get to 1 year, and then at 1 year, it just didn't seem to be ending for Esme, and I wasn't in a rush to end breastfeeding, so we didn't. And we ended up nursing up to 22 months, so just before her second birthday. And with Jack, I imagine my goal again will be 1 year, and we'll just go from there. So I wish you all the success. If you have any more questions, as spit just flew out of my mouth, just leave them below, and perhaps I'll do another breastfeeding update video in the future. Hope this helps. All right, I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.